Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy. And now, here are your hosts, Josh Guesman and Wendy Thomas.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Josh Guesman, Miss Wendy Thomas with you on a wonderful Thursday night. LA Galaxy getting ready to face another opponent here on the weekend. The Chicago Fire coming into town. We're going to talk about that game coming up at the end of the show. We're going to walk you through some Philadelphia talk as well, as much as we can possibly glean from a 0-0 draw that was rather uninspiring. So we'll talk about that as well. We'll get to some LA Galaxy news, your calls, your questions, all that fun stuff is on tap as well. So a busy show. Should be going all 60 minutes tonight, possibly even longer. Depends on you guys, but welcome to the show. We hope we're going to have a good night tonight. Let's check in with my wonderful co-host, the very awesome Miss Wendy Thomas. Wendy, how's it going?
It's going well. How you doing, Josh?
Hanging in there. It's the week's almost over. It's almost Friday, almost game day. Kind of regardless of whether the LA Galaxy are good or bad or indifferent, there is a game on Saturday, and I always look forward to going to StubHub and watching some soccer. So, I mean, that's a highlight. I think we're pretty lucky in the fact that we do get to do that on a regular basis, even if it is
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I always, whoever I go with, I always remind them. Because we get to the StubHub Center and the weather is usually beautiful.
Yes.
The grass smells wonderful.
Yes.
There's lots of people walking around and they are, really energetic and smiling. And I'm like, how lucky we are to be doing this. We're very lucky.
Yeah, that's one of those things now that we're saying because we know that.
Because we suck.
Yeah, because it's really bad. Let's take a bigger view of the whole world. The whole world. I mean.
I do. I get like a lot of perspective. I start turning to Christian and I say, let's think about things globally. Let's really pull back and take a 30,000 view look at this right now. I'm like, we have our health, okay? We have each other.
Right.
Right? And you get very zen when your team sucks as much as we suck right now.
Yeah, it's bad. It's very bad. I mean, we're going to go over all the badness, and we're going to talk about it, and there's not going to be a lot of sugarcoating, because quite honestly, I don't know how you could find a candy center in any of this right now, regardless of how many licks it takes to get to the center of it. It's not going to...
Tootsie Pop?
Yeah, that's right. Little Tootsie Pop reference there. But no, I mean, the first thing that sort of comes to my mind, and obviously looking at Philadelphia, is I look at the chat room that we have here whenever we do the live shows, and the first thing that I see right now is why has nobody been fired yet? All right, and we knew that there was a possibility something could happen if they lost to Philadelphia. Now, I think everybody was hoping that if it wasn't a win, that something would happen. But it was a draw, 0-0 draw, uninspiring, very defensive for the LA Galaxy because I think, as Curt would say, they were bleeding goals beforehand. And so they put Baggio Husidic in there, and they put him next to Joao Pedro, and Joao Pedro had one of his better nights. In fact, probably his best night as an LA Galaxy player. So maybe there is something to the Jermaine Jones and Joao Pedro pairing being toxic, bad, very bad matchups, everything that you could possibly group into that. So maybe there's something in there, because he did have the second most tackles on the night behind Bradley Diallo, who had the most tackles on the night. So, I mean...
Yeah, I actually called into Zero's podcast about this because I did think that Joao Pedro played slightly better. And I think one reason why people are having a problem understanding the fact that, Jermaine Jones and Joao Pedro could be an unsuccessful partnership is that people know that Jermaine Jones is very talented. And from my perspective, though, the fact that he is one of our most talented players is not mutually exclusive to the idea that he could also be a problem for the team.
True.
Because, there's lots of talented players, many, many talented players in world football where their talent either cannot overcome the problems that they encounter, or it doesn't mesh well within the context of what the dynamic is of the team. Mario Balotelli is a very talented player.
Yes, he is.
He's still been a problem for a number of teams. So Jermaine Jones can simultaneously be one of our very best players in terms of his ability, the things he can do in a game, and yet also still not really be working well within the team.
Well, I mean, maybe I had a little bit of an epiphany reading through comments and just talking. You look at the LA Galaxy, and they have 4 players, Wendy. They have 4 players who refuse to play in the positions that they're put. All right, and some of that is good, and some of that is very bad. And right now, and those 4 players, let's see, if I asked you who the 4 players who don't stay in position are, could you give them to me?
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
Jermaine Jones.
Yes.
Jelle Van Dam.
Mm-hmm.
Giovanni Dos Santos.
Yes.
And
this is
Well,
you know this one. This was an easy one. French.
Van
Frenchman. French guy.
Oh, Alessandrini, yeah.
Alessandrini.
But okay, so in this game, one thing that I did notice was, and this was obvious, that Jermaine Jones drifted. I mean, I don't know if it was intentional. I assume it must have been intentional that Curt Onalfo decided to drop Giovanni Dos Santos back to the center midfield and push Jermaine Jones up to play as our striker. I assume that was intentional. Not sure why though.
I think you would give. I think you might give him too much credit if you. And so I think you give everybody involved too much credit if we think that that's intentional. I don't know that was the case.
Oh God. But oh no, I hate to think of what happens.
Well, because
consequences are if that wasn't intentional.
Well, think about that.
One thing I did notice is that Jermaine Jones at one point he almost physically ran into Emma Boateng on the wing when Emma was trying to get to the ball because Jermaine was drifting out to the wing, and I was just thinking to myself, Jermaine, what are you doing going to the wing?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there was a lot of interchange in this game. You had Emmanuel Boateng and Alessandrini playing on switching sides at one point. You had Jermaine Jones spending a lot of time above Giovanni Dos Santos, and you had Giovanni Dos Santos. Yeah, above.
Giovanni Dos Santos was practically in center midfield point. Jermaine Jones was basically a striker.
He was at one point Giovanni Dos Santos was the second to last person back behind the ball, receiving the ball from Jelle Van Dam. So yeah, I mean if we're going to play the game, if the LA Galaxy are going to play the game where they're looking, and I think we all acknowledge one of their biggest issues is they're not scoring goals right now. It was certainly a case against Philadelphia where it's 0-0 and the guy who had the best chance on goal was Joao Pedro. All right, if Pedro is your best chance on goal, something's going wrong. 2 posts though, that is a little unlucky. I'm going to say that.
That was freaky.
And it was fun to watch, quite honestly. I enjoyed that as well. But
I honestly didn't believe it till I saw the replay. I really thought it had gone in.
No, it didn't. And we saw it from up in the press box, and I was sitting next to a couple reporters, and we were sitting there, and we saw it, and it went clank, clank, and we looked at each other and like, really? That didn't go in, huh? It's like, and then we all waited for the replay, and we watched it again, and it's like, nope, didn't go in inside the post.
I've never seen that before. Exactly along the line.
Crazy.
It was exactly along the goal line.
Yeah, I mean, and that's your biggest, sort of scoring chance. There was one, Giovanni Dos Santos had one. I think Emma Boateng had one.
Wait a second, what about the header?
Yeah.
The Jermaine Jones header that he missed in the center of the box with no one else around him.
Which goes to my point. If you are going to play, and if this is why, if it's intentional, it raises red flags for me more than if it's just 2 guys who can't seem to stay in their proper positions, regardless of what you say. Which I would hope would be the case in this. If you are going to depend on Jermaine Jones to be a finisher in terms of striking, then you're not getting the striking finishing from Giovanni Dos Santos, which is why you're paying him. He is the most talented in front of goal. I think maybe even more so than Alessandrini. We've seen Gio do amazing things. He has the body, he has the ability to do this, but it seems that every time that Onalfo puts him in a position to succeed, and he did early in this game with Giovanni Dos Santos pressing high, in the first 5 minutes, he had 2 realistic chances towards goal. That's a plus. You need to get him started getting closer to goal and taking shots. That's important. So you had that, and then with Jones pressing high and Giovanni Dos Santos dropping back, you're relying on Jermaine Jones being a striker to finish. And to me, if that is intentional, then I scratch my head even more. And more than likely, what I'm hoping is the problem is that Giovanni Dos Santos and Jermaine Jones are just completely ignoring Curt Onalfo, and they're playing wherever they want, regardless of what. And that makes me feel better. That makes me feel better than Curt Onalfo thinking that Jermaine Jones is a more viable striking option closer to net than Alessandrini, than Boateng, and then Giovanni Dos Santos. And it's really the Giovanni Dos Santos, because you might make a case that Jermaine Jones could be more clinical than Emmanuel Boateng. Maybe. I don't know why
Well,
you'd
then,
need it, though.
that actually gives me a little bit of hope, actually. That gives me reason for optimism, because if the problem is that the players literally just will not play their positions and they just roam the field going wherever they want at any time, then all you really need is a different coach who will discipline the players and who has the license, the gravitas, the authority to impose his will on the team. So that just means that you need to, impose a little discipline. It doesn't mean that, the team is hopeless. It's just a question of forcing the players to listen to you. And if they won't listen to Curt and Onalfo, then hopefully, if we bring in a different coach in the middle of the season, it could be someone where, he'll say, listen, Jermaine Jones, you're a central midfielder. That's where you're playing. Don't go roaming all over the field. Just stay where you are. Distribute the ball, circulate, just do these basic central midfield tasks, and maybe it'll radically improve the team.
Yeah. Round in circles, up and down, round and round. Jermaine, just stay right there, little Happy Gilmore, right there. Just stay right there in the zone, in your happy place. Jermaine, stay in the center of the field, distribute out, and get Giovanni Dos Santos closer to the ball. Now, in this game, Jousy Zardes did not play. He was sick. He was sick. If you were stalking his Instagram, as some people have been known to do, then you saw that he's been sick leading up to the game. It was largely expected that he wouldn't play. Whenever we got to StubHub Center, it was the first thing that sort of got kicked around was that Jousy Zardes wasn't going to play, and so whenever the lineups came out, that got confirmed. So it was because of sickness. He'll be back. But here's the issue: is that Curt Onalfo went with a new formation, right? The 4-2-3-1. He brought Bradley Diallo in for his second MLS start and his first at right back, and Diallo had a very good game. But again, if you're looking at what you're doing with this particular formation, it got way more defensive because you're committing two guys basically full-time. You always had Joao Pedro, but Jones was more of a back-and-forth, box-to-box type of guy who would go forward and then supposedly get back, even though he gets pulled way out of position and doesn't make his runs back. You're committing another person with Baggio Husidic back to that defense. So you had essentially, and not even essentially, you had six guys who were basically full-time defenders in this and only four attackers. So as Curt Onalfo said, and you know what, that's what we can actually start with because we do have some post-game audio, and why not use that to sort of fuel our conversations? Let's hear from Curt Onalfo and basically find out why he, in his own words, why the formation changed. So here's Curt Onalfo following the LA Galaxy 0-0 draw to Philadelphia.
We had just been bleeding goals, and it's when you win the middle of the field and you're able to press more efficiently, which if you saw our team, I thought we pressed well tonight. It gives you a better chance to be better going forward, and it just gives you better chances to win games. So it was something that we felt like we had to do, and I thought it worked in the sense that we didn't concede anything, and we created enough chances where something's got to go in, and we lacked some quality there tonight.
All right, so there it is. More defensive. We clearly got that. I don't know if it necessarily made them dangerous enough to go forward. I mean, you look at the offensive stats here, Wendy. 13 shots to 8 shots in favor of the LA Galaxy. That's good. That's what you'd expect. But when you look at shots on target, it's 3-2. The LA Galaxy barely outshot a team that only had 36% possession. So as has been the case for the LA Galaxy in most games, lots of possession, barring the Seattle game, lots of possession in places where it doesn't matter. And so you had Jermaine Jones, who missed a clear header, and that was the best, probably, you're absolutely right when you classified that as the best looking shot of the night, or the best chance of the night. That was one of the best. And Pedro from far out is probably second. And then you had one from Boateng where he probably took a little bit too long and got cut down on the angle. And then you got one from Giovanni Dos Santos, sort of the same thing. So, that's great. So you got 3 shots on goal out of 13 shots, which means you were either shooting from far away or you're really bad.
Yeah, I will say one thing, because I sit where my seats are located. I sit almost not directly behind Curt Onalfo, but just slightly off to the right behind him.
Right.
And so I have a good view of his body language throughout the game. And I will say, LA Galaxy fans, as despondent as they were, Curt Onalfo was very bewildered and very perplexed during that game. I think I could read on his face he was just mystified as to why things were happening the way they were. It's like he perceives that the fates are conspiring against him, the way he just was shaking his head. He did not understand what is going on and why is this happening. And when he gives these press conferences, you can hear the sighing tone to his voice, and it's like he is wrestling with the idea that he just doesn't know why. Because in his mind, you can tell before the season, he and Klein and Baenas, I'm sure they had a vision in their mind of this is how it's going to go down, and this is what's going to, it's all going to be unfurled, and our genius will be revealed. And it's like nothing is going according to plan, and he just can't grapple with it.
Yeah, I think there is some not almost some resignation in his voice. It's just like this. It's just never gonna work for me, is it? Let's go to another Curt Onalfo post game on feeling the pressure and why perhaps the LA Galaxy couldn't finish some of those chances.
I mean, we have a group that, let's be honest, we're all, we feel pressure. So when you feel pressure, sometimes you force things and you don't have that extra pause and that extra amount of relaxation that you need, where you just put a play away. It's been a very frustrating, difficult start for us. We've worked very, very hard. It's not been for a lack of effort. The results haven't gone the way we've wanted them to go. So I feel like we saw a little bit of that tonight in the guys. I mean, they put in a great effort. They fought all the way through. And I thought defensively, we build on that for sure. And then we just probably got to be a little looser and a little, more confident in the final third, because it's coming.
It according to Curt, it's just right on the tip of your tongue there. It's ready to start. Wendy, it's gonna all fall into place. Just
yeah, this is like,
yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious, Josh! You know how I do a lot of work in finance. You know that, right?
Yeah, I do, Wendy. You know what, Wendy? I'm gonna stop you because we're losing your connection. So I'm gonna call you right back though. Don't worry about it. We'll get you right back, and we'll make sure it's all working. And then we'll have another epic, Wendy awesomeness explanation here. Whenever you look at the LA Galaxy, okay. So Wendy, whenever you said you work in finance, is that where you left that?
So,
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I worked in finance, and I have for many years in various capacities. I used to be a white collar prosecutor, and it's very interesting to me when I hear. I see so many parallels between the world of finance and the world of sports, and it's interesting because I can almost hear echoes of the same conversations when I listen to people like Onalfo trying to explain things that are happening. It's like I could be listening to a hedge fund trader trying to figure out why the recession happened, because they have a plan, they think everything is going one way, and then the table is just flipped. Everything is turned upside down. And I hear the exact same sense of just bewilderment. Why is everything happening the way it is?
Yeah.
It's so fascinating to me.
Yeah, and I can understand that. Wendy, we're going to try to reconnect with you again because we're still sort of in and out and missing with the connection, and that's the nature of Skype sometimes. But, I mean, in this particular game and how it happened, you have to look, if you're an LA Galaxy fan, you have to look at this and you have to say, look at these two teams and where they are. Everybody's calling, myself included, was calling Philadelphia the worst team in Major League Soccer. All right. And that makes, I think that they have probably a pretty good argument for why they could be the worst team in soccer. Philadelphia certainly is right there. Maybe Colorado is the worst team in Major League Soccer right now. But the most hurtful thing in this entire sort of understanding is looking at the talent that you have, and they're mentioning this in the chat room right now, looking at the talent that the LA Galaxy have, looking at the talent that Philadelphia has, and understanding that the LA Galaxy are in the same conversation with a winless Philadelphia Union team and a Colorado Rapids team that has been, yawnful so far.
And Minnesota.
And Minnesota is almost not even in that discussion, despite the fact they've given up 25 goals.
Minnesota could be better than us.
They could be. And this was certainly something at the beginning of the year where I said that don't worry, at least you're going to be better than Minnesota. I think that will still play it. Yeah, maybe not.
You spoke too soon, sir.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me. Remember, all it has to happen, this is the whole thing with Curt and Onalfo, right? And the front office, and it's sort of a game you have to play where you sit there and you criticize them, Wendy, and you say, you guys, this isn't working for you guys. You're not doing what you said you were going to do. Perhaps you're even changing plans now with the signing of Jack McInerney, something Kevin and I got into Monday. It's like, remember all these young guys you were going to give time to.
Why are you why have Onalfo as your coach if he's not going to transition in these young guys, right?
Exactly, and so now you have them, and now you're not playing any of the young guys. I mean, Bradley Diallo. Let's put it this way: right back is a position where they have no answer for. Somebody's going to have to play there, so they kind of don't have a choice in that one. But anywhere else on the field that there's a choice right now, the young guys aren't really getting the time. So have they already abandoned it and looking at that? But whenever they could end up being right? The front office could end up. This could all pan out for them. Right, and then we all look like idiots because we have to be right the entire year for us to be like, oh, this was never going to work, right? The whole thing. They start to put things together, and all of a sudden they're right, and they'll be right, and so it's.
Well, I wouldn't go too far with that.
Well, hey,
I mean, I think that you're both right and wrong because. Yes, they could turn things around, and yes, that would be a vast improvement, and they would receive much less criticism. But from my perspective, there is an operational philosophy within the LA Galaxy which is inconsistent with running a really successful organization.
Right.
I'll give you an example of why I think that's true. Here is something that I think is true, and yet I do not think will ever be acknowledged as true within the and that is that Posh Spice had more to do with the success the LA Galaxy has enjoyed in the past 7 years than anyone in our current FO. Because 10 years ago, she was married to one of the best soccer players in the world who played for Real Madrid, and she wanted to live in Hollywood where the celebrities are. So she convinced him to move to Los Angeles to a league where he was far superior to everyone else who played. And he invited his friend Robbie Keane to join him. And so we had in one team Robbie Keane, Landon Donovan, and David Beckham. With that amount of talent, we were the recipients of such great fortune. But instead of acknowledging that we were so fortunate that Providence bestowed on us so much luck, the men who are behind the scenes, I think instead they interpreted it as they created this. They think that they created the success and they took ownership of it, and now they believe that is a guiding principle, that they are visionaries, the second coming of Pep Guardiola, whatever they think they are, instead of acknowledging that within a group that the group is responsible for the success. There's no I in team, but I mean, it's true that I feel like there's a belief system, and Kevin Baxter, I think, characterizes it as arrogance. I don't actually think it's arrogance. Arrogance is okay. Bruce Arena is very arrogant. Jose Mourinho is arrogant. Coaches all over the world are arrogant. It's a disconnect between it's a disengagement from reality, I think, because when you think that you create all the success of an organization, you start to have a self-conception which is totally disentangled from what is real. So I wish that our front office was more geared towards having a humble, yes, also maybe some of Bruce Arena's pragmatism and, a little more engagement with reality, because as long as they have this vision of themselves as visionary geniuses and they think that the only reason things are going badly is because somehow the fates are conspiring against them to make them lose. I don't know if the Galaxy really can be successful until you start to take ownership of your things.
Well, I get where you're coming from on that. I think you would be discounting, one, what Bruce was able to do, because remember, David Beckham came and almost destroyed this team with Rude Gullit, right?
Yes,
And
definitely
Alexi Lawless certainly helped that as well. So you had those two trying to tear things down, and then you certainly have the influence of Bruce Arena on that, and then you also have the influence of Tim Lewicki on that. So I think that there were people who definitely had impacts on this team. I just don't think those guys are with this team anymore. And so I think
obviously Bruce had a huge influence. I'm saying that I don't understand when I listen to Chris Klein and Pete Vianis and Curt Onalfo, and they express so almost like flippant about what, how difficult their face is and their role within the galaxy and trying to make sure, it's like, oh, for the galaxy, of course. It's like they have a sense of entitlement.
Yes.
They're entitled to success.
Yeah.
And no one's entitled to success. You have to earn it. And I feel like part of that from the fact that they don't appreciate the fact that everything that's happened in the past 8 years, everything that the galaxy were able to create was the result of so many small actors, people like Marcelo Sarvas, people like Juninho, people like Omar Gonzalez, people like AJ De La Garza. And when they just tear at the fabric, they're giving short shrift to the efforts of all of those people, and they're also just disengaging from what actually makes success within a group dynamic. That is everyone collectively together towards one goal, unanimity of vision, things like that. And I think they just attribute so much of the LA Galaxy success to their own genius that it's very hard to see beyond, the fact that this is something that we have to create together, collectively. Everyone has to contribute to it. And, I just don't know if they have that self-insight.
Yeah, but I don't think that they're also sitting there saying that. I mean, you talk about the three guys who are in charge, and Curt Onalfo can't raise his hand in terms of having any success with any of the MLS Cup runs or anything like that. I mean, he was an assistant coach. That helps. That's fine. Chris Klein is probably the person who could possibly say he has the most influence over those cup runs. And so, and then you have Pete Vianis, who I don't think is going to stand up and say, "Oh yeah, it was definitely me." All that stuff. So I think they're working together.
Why are they so flippant? On to question we're the Galaxy.
I think
not worried about LAFC. They're coming in a year. Just not concerned at all. I mean, I just don't understand that. They're just so dismissive.
No, it is. It's completely dismissive. It's wrong too. And they're going to find that out if they don't correct things. In fact, they may have already done too much damage to even, stop LAFC from coming in and largely taking over Los Angeles, because the way this team is running right now, near the very bottom of the league, it's one of those things. All right, Wendy, we're working on Wendy's audio. It's not coming in. Wendy, we're going to try to reset Skype one more time, and then we'll try it one more time to see if that works. And if not, maybe we'll just have Wendy call in and do it on the phone. So other than that, that's sort of where we're at right now with the Wendy audio. So we're working on it. All right. So, this is the Philadelphia. This is the Philadelphia game. We didn't learn anything. The LA Galaxy didn't improve. If you want to say a shutout is an improvement, that's fine. Go ahead and live in that dream world. That's certainly your right to do that. I don't think I would be that way. It wasn't a performance that gives you any hope for going forward. Some people say it stabilized the fall. Some people say that it was, one of those, it could be a turning point. It could be lots of things. I don't think it was. I don't think it was a turning point. I don't think that we learned anything about this team except that they have to throw in another defender in order to try and prop up the bad formation and the players changing positions and the fact that they commit too many people forward and then get beat. And now what are they going to do whenever Giassi Zardes comes back? Because you can't run the same offense again. All right, Wendy, let's try it again. One more time. Let's see if you're perhaps, if Skype has been stable enough for a little while that it calms down. And if not, I think we might have you call in.
Did you do my big, brilliant speech?
No, we got all your big, brilliant speech. No problems. It was there. So you're okay. But the line isn't any better. So, Wendy, what I'm going to do is if you can get to a cell phone, I'll go ahead and give you the number, and I'll have you call in, all right? And we'll get you on the phone that way, because that's the only way this is going to work. All right, thanks. All right, so like I said, working through some technical difficulties. Always fun with a live show. That's always more fun. It was working fine. No problems with Kevin Baxter on Monday, so it's just it's one of those things. So we're going to go ahead and try to reboot here. And as I do that, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, all right? So don't go anywhere. Whenever I come back, we're going to talk some more LA Galaxy. Wendy will be joining us on the phone, and we obviously have to talk about the Chicago game coming up. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com.
Living in my head, breathing in the noise. The struggle's like an open mouth without a voice. So here's to you and I, canary.
Ready for some more Corner of the Galaxy? Don't forget to head over to the website for all the latest podcasts, news, and more. Visit us online at cornerofthegalaxy.com.
Hey, this is Chris.
This is Eddie. This is Jason.
And we're from Back Pocket Memory, and you're listening to Corner of the Galaxy.
All right, welcome back to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. All right, Josh and Wendy with you. Wendy is now, of course, joining us on the phone, so we can have connection issues just a little bit better. So hopefully we'll see if that works just a little bit better for us. All right, so with Philadelphia, we've learned nothing. People are already asking if Curt Onalfo loses to Chicago, Wendy, if that means that he's fired. And to that, I say, sure, it's a possibility. I don't know. Here's the problem that I have if you lose to Chicago, is that the LA Galaxy are getting ready to go on a 4-game road trip. And if they lose this game, which would be more drop points at home, by the way, the LA Galaxy have a total of 4 points from 5 home games so far. More drop points at home. How are you going to make that up on the road in 2 East Coast teams where you haven't won in the East Coast, I think, since 2012, and that was against Philadelphia? And you have 2 other games, one against Minnesota United, which is probably your best chance to get a win, and the other one's against San Jose, a rival up in San Jose. Where are you going to get your points from? So you're not talking about one game here. You're talking about 5 games in which the LA Galaxy could, quite honestly, not win a game, Wendy.
Away games. We're losing those away games. I wonder if there is a plan to replace Curt, that they would take the month that we're going to be playing away games and start looking at potential hires. And then after he loses 4 games in a row on the road, they come back, he's fired, and they have a new coach.
It's a good plan. I like your plan better than anything else I think I've heard so far. So, I mean, the Wendy Thomas plan, I think, could be put in full effect. But I could almost see them making a statement. Here's the problem, is that if you wait that long to do that, Wendy, you're putting more LA Galaxy fans and people who are watching this team, waiting for them to make a change, to do something, to keep their loyalty, to keep them wanting to come back and come see games. I mean, we're going to see attendance drop. If you lose 5 games in a row, even with Curt, I almost think that it's too long. You've done too much injury to the brand. Even if you fire Curt after a Chicago loss, let's say he loses, even if you fire him, you then have 4 games to put an interim coach in. You probably weren't going to win those games anyway. That's fine. And then you could, but people know there's change on the way.
But here's the thing. Here's the reason why I think the Wendy plan might be in play is because I think that the one thing that the LA Galaxy really cares about is revenue. And the one place where it would really hurt them is if you hit them in their wallet. The reason why losing at home is so terrible is, in addition to how demoralizing it is that so much money goes into those home games. I mean, people spend God knows how much money on food, concessions, merchandise, everything. The away games, you don't stand to lose the same sort of revenue. And I think that if they go on a losing stretch of away games and then right after the away games, it's announced that he's fired, I think having a new coach is what brings back the fans because they'll think to themselves, okay, Onalfo is gone. Now I'm interested to see what this new coach has. And so they'll show up to see the new LA Galaxy to see if a new coach will revitalize the team. So that's why I think it's maybe the idea is that he goes on the road, we lose 4 in a row away and just are awful, and then he's fired.
I think that the chorus of people asking for the firing and being upset if they lose against Chicago would be deafening. I don't know that they could wait that long. And you're that still makes sense, by the way. If you go my way, which is if he loses to Chicago, he's gone. You have an interim, and then you have the new coach, and they announce it, the week before the game, and there's all this buildup. There's a new coach. It's still there. I mean, I think we're on the same track. We're just a little bit in our time frame, and I don't know that either one's right now. So that's I think.
But I think you also said that you think there's a chance that the FO might just refuse to fire him completely and just be like, no, we're just going to do things our way. We're not listening to anyone.
Well, they have a plan, right? They have a quote unquote plan. That's they've implemented this plan. You can't say they don't have a plan. It just might not be a good one. All right. So they have a plan. They're implementing said plan. And they're going to give Curt a chance to implement that plan. Now, here's the real thing, is that Curt is going to be a scapegoat for this. I think we've all said that. Right? I mean, listen, I think he may have lost the team. That's something that you can't have for a coach. So that's certainly, you can hang that on his head. Okay? But everything else in terms of the players that they've had available, the players the front office made available, the players they traded, the players they signed, the players they brought in, all of those things are hung squarely on the front office's side of things and not Curt Onalfo. But Onalfo is forced to play with the results of all of that. So
yeah, and you could almost hear it in his voice. In the audio, there's such a sense of resignation to the tone of his voice that you almost get the feeling like he is aware of something impending, that he will be sacrificed. He is the sacrificial lamb of the LA Galaxy front office stupidity.
It very well could be. And like I said, that is still something that I think any of those are viable options. I don't know that this front office, I mean, we have been criticizing the front office for not making reasonable decisions. You and I have just laid out 2 reasonable arguments why it could happen after Chicago or after the road trip. So, it wouldn't be surprising that Curt Onalfo ends the season as LA Galaxy coach and they finish in last place. That is also... No, I don't.
But I mean, what if no one is really paying attention, though? I mean, Dan Beckerman is the CEO of AEG. He is in charge of, the LA Kings, the Staples Center, SubHub Center. There's venues all over the world. They have a huge live performance business. It's the second largest promoter in the world. Why do we think that anyone is paying attention to the LA Galaxy? I mean, if Chris Klein is the president of the LA Galaxy, which you have told me he actually is, and he actually is the business mind behind all of this, then he's not going to change his mind. I mean, he hired Curt Onalfo, and if Dan Beckerman is busy occupying himself with other ventures, then maybe no one is paying attention.
It's a very... I mean, if you look at the impact the LA Galaxy have on the overall AEG brand, it's a small piddlance of any sort of mention, right? This is a multi-billion-dollar company, and like you said, venues all around the world. And Dan Beckerman's in charge of all that. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's not paying attention. He seems to be interested in it. I will say that. I think that he pays attention. You saw him, and he seems to pay attention to the sports teams. What can I say? They ruffled up the Kings management, right? And they did some things over there. By the way, very LA Galaxy-like with promoting former players and doing that type of thing. So along the same lines, so there's the same philosophy there. So maybe he is paying attention. I don't know. It's one of these things that will continue to play out, and I don't know that we're going to know any answers, but I was just saying my point is don't expect them to act reasonably when we think what is reasonable hasn't been done throughout the year. So it wouldn't surprise you.
Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise you.
Yeah, because we are operating from the assumptions that they would make rational decisions in response to being handed information after, if you lose 5 games in a row, then a rational person would conclude that action needs to be taken. But they're irrational because, they've done all kinds of irrational things in the past 6 months. They traded AJ De La Garza when they had no right back. They gave a raise to a player who's 36 years old and previously tore his ACL and played 9 games for his team the year before. I mean, there's just all kinds of irrational decisions being made. So perhaps any conclusions we draw that are predicated upon logical assumptions are going to be erroneous.
Well, the LA Galaxy and some of the team news that we have obviously are hosting a throwback night. I wanted everybody to know that. The first 12,500 fans will get a throwback shirt. As terms of promotional giveaways, this shirt is actually fairly attractive, Wendy. It is the old 96 colors. It's the gold, it's the green, it's got the Galaxy swirl logo, I guess. I don't even know. It's a Galaxy logo. How do you explain that other than that? But it's the old school style. It's the Galaxian colors. So if you've seen the Galaxians cheering at StubHub Center, it's those same colors. And like I said, the first 12,500 fans will get that shirt. It's a reason to get there early if you're already headed to the game. It is one of the better looking things. I would say that if you don't have a reason to go to the game and you really want one of these shirts, why not watch some soccer, get the shirt, and then you won't have to buy it on eBay for like $30 or $40 because people would be ridiculous and sell that stuff on there for that much.
No, the reason to go to this weekend's game is because Juninho is coming back.
Oh,
and
yes.
If you're an LA and if you really want to see an LA Galaxy player playing well, Juninho is going to be here this weekend. He is, I think, in his heart, maybe still an LA Galaxy player. He's going to play well.
He might score some goals. He might. I expect a warm welcome for him.
He definitely would. He definitely will.
Well, we'll see. Every time I predict that a former LA Galaxy player is actually going to do that, they don't. And then whenever I don't predict it, they do. So I don't know what I'm supposed to say anymore in order for that to happen. Maybe I have no effect on it, or maybe I have all the effect on it. Maybe it's all me. So the other bit of LA Galaxy team news that we wanted to throw out there is ESPN FC's Jeff Carlisle, good friend of the show, good friend of mine, has reported that Carlos Villa possibly has some interest in coming to Major League Soccer. And the two teams that are possibly interested in bringing the 28-year-old Mexican national team member to MLS are LAFC and the LA Galaxy, possibly. There's some other teams that are in there as well. He currently plays with Real Sociedad in Spanish La Liga, primarily a right winger. This is, it was really interesting. Matt Doyle from MLSsoccer.com, he went in and sort of said, what do the LA Galaxy need and what are they going to go after for the summer, right? And he went in and sort of said this, Wendy, and, he goes, the LA Galaxy really needs some defense, perhaps another defensive midfielder. This is where they should spend their money. They're not going to. They'll probably spend money on like another offensive weapon, a striker, a forward, that type of thing. And with the LA Galaxy not scoring any goals, perhaps that's the key. Perhaps that is something. But no LA Galaxy striker has scored goals, so I'm not sure it's the personnel more than it is the team right now. So listen, this is one of those things. I just wanted to get everybody to sort of know that this is out there in case something more comes of it. But there's rumored to be a $10 million transfer fee involved in this if he's coming to MLS.
The LA Galaxy are not paying that. So LAFC, he's all yours.
Yeah, I could certainly see the LA Galaxy and AEG paying $10 million transfer fee to bring in a Mexican national team member. I think that they think that is their their key demographic is to go after, obviously, the Mexicans living in and around Los Angeles, and that they feel that this ties them to the team, and that it might be totally worth all the money that they could spend on that. That I could see them doing that. And remember, it's AEG.
Listen, Josh, we're in cost-cutting mode. Do you remember cost-cutting mode? 2, we don't need a right winger at all. 3, it's really offensively gross that this team, which is run, I believe, all by white guys, essentially have concluded that the way to get Mexicans to watch our league is by bringing in L-Tree players. You know what I think Latino people really like? I think they like what everyone likes, which is good soccer.
Yes.
And I think if the team is better, then you'll get more fans. You'll get more fans of all colors, stripes, creeds, ages, genders, sexes. And there's no reason why they have to pander mercilessly to L-Tree as though Mexican fans can't for themselves look at a product and decide whether they like it or not. I mean, it's just so reductive and offensive that this is like, it's like Chivas USA Redux, because it's like, oh, well, we want Mexicans to watch this team, so I guess we'll just hire a Mexican. All right, that's what they all want to watch. It's so offensive to me. I think I'm more offended by it than my boyfriend, and he's of Mexican heritage.
Yeah, I know. And this has been a staple of MLS since they started the league, in the terms of quote-unquote pandering to a certain subsection to try to get people to come. And I certainly see that, Wendy. I will also say that I wouldn't put it past them even a little bit, and that's why I say don't sleep on this, although I think it's highly unlikely, especially at $10 million.
We don't need a right winger. We do not need a right winger. Oh my God, we need help in so many positions. They do not need a right winger.
Well, and so you would be sitting there going, all right, so if you're going to bring him in, he plays predominantly right wing. I think he plays some other positions as well. So if you're going to bring him in, where does he fit into the lineup? How does he fit? And for me, lots of people are saying that it could be a fit for the LA Galaxy. I don't see it, and I'm with you, Wendy. So we'll move on. It's not even even that. But I'm telling you, pay attention to it, because if it starts to build smoke, we're going to be talking about it again. So, LA Galaxy 2 news. LA Galaxy 2 last played Saturday, April 22nd, when they tied Orange County SC. That is the LAFC affiliate in USL. They tied them 1-1 at home in front of about 2,500 plus people. One of the largest, almost 2,200 people. The largest ever crowd at the track and field stadium for the LA Galaxy 2. They now have a rematch. Everybody got the week off. Now May 6th, this Saturday, before the LA Galaxy will take on the Chicago Fire, down in Orange County at the Great Park. This is the quote-unquote new stadium that is down at the Great Park for Orange County SC. It's a bunch of temporary stands around a soccer field right now. That is where LA Galaxy 2 will be playing. It is interesting sort of to note that this is a rivalry game, that, again, the LAFC affiliate is there, and that they're going to be playing this, and I have to think that the timing was selected on purpose, but they're playing this on a day when we're almost certain not to see anybody come down to watch LA Galaxy 2, because they'll be waiting for the LA Galaxy game up in StubHub. So, that's what you do whenever you have home scheduling. I think it makes some sense. They could have played it at exactly the same time to really sort of push that home, but it would be difficult to see both games. You couldn't make it. So anyway, that's something. If you are in Orange County, you are not going to the LA Galaxy game, you can head over to the Great Park and see LA Galaxy 2 to take on Orange County SC. I don't know if there's anything more we need to talk about in terms of that. We've already talked about the schedule up to a certain point. Chicago, obviously, Saturday. Travel away to New York Red Bulls. I don't think the Red Bulls have lost a game at home this year. Away to Minnesota, away to San Jose, and away to DC United. That's June 3rd, boys and girls, the DC United game, which means the LA Galaxy will not be back home until June 17th, when they host the Houston Dynamo. That's AJ De La Garza's return to the to StubHub Center. So something to sort of focus on there. But Wendy, we talked about it. A huge 4-game road trip that I'm looking at, and maybe, again, the best team you have a chance of beating right now with the LA Galaxy looking is Minnesota United. And I'm not so sure that Minnesota doesn't beat the LA Galaxy.
Yeah, I think that we're going to have an epic losing streak. Right. I think that we potentially could set records. You know what's hilarious? Do you remember before the season started when we were talking about the win-loss record that we anticipated could happen this year, and everyone started busting your chops because you said, what if the LA Galaxy only win 8 games?
Yep.
And everyone was like, oh, Josh, how could you possibly say that? You're crazy, man. Hey, folks, guess what? The LA Galaxy could win fewer than 8 games.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I just, it's almost worth it to me to see that go through just so I can be right. But at the same time, what a horrible season that would be to watch. And I don't want to do that. So no, let's not have that happen. But at the same time, understand that the current form that they're on right now, Len's 8 wins is a really good. Can you imagine this team having 8 wins? That would be, I love it. 8 wins, that's 8 times they won a game. I think that might work. But that's where you sit right now. The LA Galaxy sit in 10th place in the Western Conference. They're going against the 7th place in the Eastern Conference, Chicago Fire. It's not good. It hasn't been good. You already know this. People will be losing their jobs when this continues. And right now, I don't see it pulling out of this nosedive that it's in because I don't know what you have to change something, and you have to change something drastically. And that means that probably Curt Onalfo is not going to be the coach of the team anymore, and that possibly people in the front office are going to lose their jobs as well. And if that happens, the worst part about this is if you're an LA Galaxy fan, hope they pull it together before that. Hope that they win against Chicago and they go on this road trip and win every single game, and that they start building and putting things together, because if not, you're wiping the season away the year before LAFC joins. That's what you're doing. Because if you put a new coach in there, Wendy, it's going to be very difficult for them to come in and have the success that Seattle had with Brian Schmetzer, and the fact that they added Nicholas Ladero, which is the real reason that they got so much better. Between those two, that was the momentum shift that they needed for Seattle to win an MLS Cup. That would be very difficult. And people stop telling me that Seattle did it last year and have hope. That was a fairy tale that happened last year. There are 2 more teams in the league, Wendy. It is harder to make the playoffs just by the fact that they added 2 more teams. If Seattle does that this year, they probably miss the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that the Seattle is obviously a terrible analogy. And I actually, when you were saying that, it was sort of gripping, because you really do realize it's true. This season, even though we're only a quarter of the way into the season, this season might not be salvageable, like in a real way. Because turning this season, even if we get a new coach, and even if the Galaxy completely changes its philosophy and brings in new players usually take a while to adjust. So even if they do that, I don't know if we necessarily can salvage this season. Maybe we can. I hope we can. I don't want this year to be just a total loss.
Yeah, I know, and that's sort of where you're at with the LA Galaxy. All right, MLS games to watch. We always give you the opponents coming up, so you get to watch 2 games this weekend. Saturday, May 6th at 7 p.m. Eastern, so it's a 4 p.m. kickoff time. You want to watch this game. It's Philadelphia Union is hosting the New York Red Bulls, and of course the LA Galaxy travel to New York next week. And then Sunday, May 7th, Minnesota United is hosting the best team in Major League Soccer right now, Sporting Kansas City. Sporting Kansas City, by the way, has given up only 3 goals. 3 goals, Wendy, in 9 games. That is spectacular.
Yeah, I watched their game against Seattle. They were really good.
They were very good, and they seem to be building some momentum there. So those are your 2 games, a Sunday and a Saturday game, so easy to do. But, of course, we hope that everybody is out there at StubHub Center. All right, Wendy, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. One more time, because like I said last time, yeah, I know. Because like I said last time, the games aren't that exciting. So if we're going to make it exciting, we better have an exciting intro to the game. So I'm about to give you that. So in 3, 2, and 1, let's see if we can get ready for the LA Galaxy and Chicago Fire. The LA Galaxy versus Chicago Fire is on Saturday, May 6th, 7:30 p.m. at StubHub Center. This game can be found on Spectrum Sportsnet and Spectrum Deportes. Joe Totino and Kobe Jones with the call. Your LA Galaxy are 2-5-1, 7 points, 8 games played, 10th in the Western Conference, sit 19th overall in the league. Chicago is 3-3-2, 11 points, 8 games played, 7th in the Eastern Conference, and 12th in the Supporters' Shield standings. Chicago is coming off of 2 consecutive losses. They are on their 3rd game of a 3-game road trip, and they are 0-2-0 so far on this road trip. They've been outscored 5-2. But Juninho is returning to face his former MLS club for the first time since re-entering the league, and he's sure to get a warm welcome. The Galaxy have a bit of a problem, though. They have a home scoreless streak of 196 minutes. Last goal at home came from Jermaine Jones in the 74th minute against Montreal. That's April 7th, so almost a month ago. And the Galaxy have an overall scoreless streak of 187 minutes because the last goal was scored against Orlando in the 83rd minute by Allison Drini, and that was back on April 15th. LA has lost 3 of their first 5 home games and secured 4 points at StubHub Center this year. The Galaxy have scored 8 goals, which is 12 fewer than league leaders Portland Timbers, and the 8 goals is tied for second fewest in the league, tied with Philadelphia, and only Colorado is worse. The Galaxy have been shut out 3 times this year, twice in the last 2 games, and have allowed 13 goals, 10 more than league leader Sporting Kansas City, who has 3 goals through 9 games. And the Galaxy are tied for the most losses in the league with 5. And the fewest wins. Tied for the 3rd fewest wins with just 2. Last time these 2 teams met, it was a come-from-behind 2-2 draw with goals from Giassi Zardes and Giovanni Dos Santos. That was in Chicago. But the last times the Galaxy have hosted the Fire, they've outscored them 6-0 with 2 victories at StubHub Center. So, a lot to expect from this game. Wendy, we always go to you. You always seem to have a reasonable answer for us. What are you expecting from this Chicago game and the fun that will be Bastian Schweinsteiger, Dax McCarty, and Juninho?
Oh, I think the LA Galaxy are going to lose. I think we lose 2-0, 3-0 maybe.
Yeah, it very well could be. It could be one of those games. Here's the interesting.
Josh, wait, Josh. I think that your wife is such a good woman because I am just imagining you going to your basement in your house and mixing that musical montage for hours on end.
No.
And I would have to say she is a very kind, good-hearted woman to let you do that because that's
a lot of time, right? Just so
how you're spending your time.
Just so you know, first of all, one, I don't have a basement because there aren't that many basements in Southern California. That just doesn't happen. So that's one of the first things that doesn't happen. All right. The other thing is that is not pre-recorded. That is me doing that live. So I just put the music in the background and I go and I just write some stats down and we go through it. All right. So this is it's simple. It's easy. That's all live. I didn't, and everybody who's watching the live show can verify that. I was actually talking while we were doing it. So that's all live. So I just write down some stats. And you have to remember that I also write a lot of the previews for Corner of the Galaxy, right? And so I have to look up all these stats. So what am I going to do with them once I'm done writing this article is I write them in my awesome Corner of the Galaxy notebook that I have, which is something you should all bid on if I die suddenly because it has all my secrets in there, all the LA Galaxy secrets. All right, and
you know what I thought was really nice was on Monday's show, Kevin Baxter complimented you on your speaking voice and how professional you come across. And I do have to say that your announcer voice, your Josh announcer voice, is very professional. I would say it's much better than a lot of people who are paid professionally to work in media.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. The good week for me continues. I will continue to be insufferable because that's twice now I've been complimented on it, or 3 times. Kevin called me to tell me that whenever it first happened. So I got that, and then he said it on the podcast, and now you've said it. So, don't be anywhere near me.
You have a very animated voice, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's. I don't know. This is my fun thing I get to do. I used to do the big MLS Cup previews and that type of thing, and those will be like 8-9 minutes long, and those will be pre-recorded and all that. But if the LA Galaxy never make it back to an MLS Cup, I won't get to do those. So we threw this in here. But what do we think? I mean, here's the interesting thing for me for the Chicago. It's 4-2-3-1. Versus possibly a 4-2-3-1. And so if you're going to be battle of the midfield, Chicago wins that midfield, right? Because you have Bastian Schweinsteiger, you have Dax McCarty, you have Juninho, right? You have, and then they have, I think one of the better designated player signings in Nikolic up top, who has 5 goals this year so far. And you pair him with Schweinsteiger and McCarty and Juninho, and they are just, I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. Here's the thing is that I don't know, because their form has slipped recently on the road, and they played 2 good teams in Toronto FC and New York Red Bulls. I don't know if that's going to affect them coming into StubHub Center. I don't think it will. I think that this is Chicago's year to beat the LA Galaxy in LA. I don't know that it's happened because I'm looking at the last 6 years basically, and it doesn't show a Chicago win in LA. So this very well could be that. And if that happens, then the cards start to fall. Do we get a firing immediately, or does it spring out? Again, we said it for the Philadelphia game, Wendy, that perhaps the off-the-field stuff is more interesting than the on-the-field of what actually happens. In this game, you might get both. Bastian Schweinsteiger coming in. How does the midfield for the LA Galaxy with Joao Pedro going up against Schweinsteiger and Jermaine Jones? And what formation does Curt Onalfo even put out, Wendy? Because we certainly can't. With Gyasi Zardes coming in, it's hard to imagine a 4-2-3-1 working unless you're going to send some people to the bench to make that fit again.
Yeah, we probably won't see a 4-2-3-1, but I think any formation we send out, we still probably will be crushed.
Let's think positively. So the best outcome of this game is 3 points. Do we think
the best outcome? Well, I don't know. I mean, is the best outcome for the Galaxy in the long term? I mean, I guess you're right. The best outcome would be if the Galaxy magically turns everything around and starts winning games immediately. That would be the best thing. But I think that I'm engaging in magical thinking. So I think that I'd love to see us win, but realistically, I think we're going to lose. And then I also think we're going to lose the next 4 games on the road. And so I think maybe the best case outcome is that Curt Onalfo gets fired.
And things start to change.
Yeah, and things change. And maybe we don't make the playoffs this year, but maybe we just improve. We bring in a coach and there's just improvement. I think at this point, I would accept, and this is heartbreaking for me to say this because I think that having high standards is key to success, but it could be that I would just accept just improvement at this point.
A step in the right direction. Some people said that happened in Philadelphia. I disagree with those people. Somebody in the chat room is saying, RC in the chat room is saying people are forgetting that just last week Klein literally said Curt's been exactly what we thought he was going to be, and Pete and him have done a great job of building that. Okay, so here's a little bit of history from that quote. That quote actually came before the Orlando game. That's when the quotes were requested. Not that I think that changes a whole bunch. It's still relevant in terms of what happened, but it wasn't like whenever that story got published that Chris Klein had said it the day before. I don't want to say that it's still a reasonable quote to say, but I want to put it in perspective of when those quotes were actually said instead of when they were published, because there was 2 or 3 weeks difference there and a horrible, horrible loss to Seattle in between that.
Yeah, I mean, there's also 2 possible explanations. One is that they're keeping their business private, right? Which is you don't out your coach and publicly lambast him, even if you deeply have private concerns that, are questioning your own decision in hiring him. That's one thing is, keeping your business private. Or the other thing is maybe he's just totally delusional.
Totally delusional. Always a chance for the LA Galaxy. All right, then give me your score prediction. I know you already did it, but officially, this is you can't phone a friend after this. There's no audience participation.
Ooh.
What would you say the final score is?
We lose. I say it's a 3-0 loss.
3-0 loss. I am saying the LA Galaxy. Let's see. They've so far just completely ticked me off for the entire season. They haven't listened to any of the score lines that I've put out. I don't think I've been overly optimistic on some of those score lines. I thought they would beat Philadelphia. I don't think that there were many people who thought they wouldn't beat Philadelphia, and then they didn't. So I'm going to say the LA Galaxy lose this game 1-0. 1-0. They get shut out again.
Relatively generous, I think.
I think it is. They get shut out again. The scoreless streak at home continues. The scoreless streak overall continues. And it's something that we get to keep watching as they go to New York to see when the next time they'll actually score a goal is. And it's going to highlight more problems that if they stay defensive in a 4-2-3-1, or they put an additional midfielder in there, or they do things that they cannot get strikers to score, and who is being placed closest to the ball. I think that these are all sort of the underlying things that we could see against Chicago and what it could happen. So I'm seeing people in the chat room 2-2. Christian says 2-2. RB says 5-0. I wouldn't say no, by the way. So that very well could be it. And those were all for I think are 5-0 in favor of Chicago, by the way. So
sure.
That's what you see. So and I'm not discounting any of that. Your LA Galaxy are not good right now. They are not a team. They're parts and pieces that are not meshing and not forming any sort of cohesive unit. That goes for the front office all the way down to the field. And until that gets fixed, until guys either stay in their position, somebody takes control of sort of the out of control airplane that's death spiraling into the ground, till somebody grabs the yoke and starts pulling up. I don't know that any of this stuff is going to get fixed. So it's going to take a big leadership jump on the field and possibly a huge leadership turnover on the bench as well for this LA Galaxy to start doing anything. So a game again at 7:30 p.m. on Saturday night, a Saturday night game. It doesn't get much better than that. It's soccer. I still say go see soccer any chance you get to do it. So I'll be there covering the game. I hope that we'll see everybody out there as well. And if you are there, make sure you say hi to me on Twitter, and we'll certainly try to meet up either before the game or at halftime where we can say hi and talk about the LA Galaxy. All right, Wendy, anything else for you? You good?
No, looking forward to the game this weekend, guys.
All right. Where can they find you, Wendy?
You can find me at cornerofthegalaxy.com, American Soccer Now, and on Twitter at First1.
All right. And if you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at Guesman, JGUESMAN, and at Galaxy Podcast. We apologize, no calls with the phone issues and Wendy having to call in. That was about as good as we could get for the night. So we apologize for the audio beforehand and the phone call conversations going forward. But we'll try to get that fixed and work on it for next show. Most of our shows go pretty good, so I'm pretty happy. All right, the LA Galaxy again, 7:30 Saturday night. Hope to see everybody there. For Miss Wendy Thomas, I'm Josh Guesman, and you've been listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a good night, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. And for all of your independent LA Galaxy news, discussion, and entertainment, including this podcast, head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. Fans, thanks for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.